Passenger Princess. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 223 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and how many times during social interactions you just sit there and listen, watch, trying to understand what is happening around you? Today's episode is going to target more my extroverted listeners, but overall it's, I think, a valuable lesson for everybody. Because sometimes not doing something is better than doing. Before we start, as usual, if you end up liking this episode, leaving a like and subscribing really help. They're just one click, but they really make the difference. Thank you very much. Now, if you know me, or if you've been listening enough for the past hundreds of episodes, you kind of understood maybe my natural way of being, and that is being very present. I try to talk, engage, I jump into conversations, I'm vocal, and it's part of the flow. I tend not to just stand in the corner sipping my drink, but sometimes stepping out of that role and becoming an observer is the most valuable thing you can do. And it just so happened that this past weekend, I had the perfect opportunity to do that. 2 completely different events, back to back, on the same day. First, the street parade. Now, if you've ever been to one, it's chaotic, there's music, it's people dancing, colors everywhere. It's the kind of place where you either let yourself get pulled into the noise, or you step back and really watch it. And that's what I did. I watched the way people interacted, the little micro moments you miss when you're busy being part of the show, friends laughing and then immediately checking their phones, couples holding hands but scanning the crowd, strangers trying to look like they belong. It was like watching a moving painting, but one where the brushstrokes told you so much about the human behavior. Now, normally, I'd be there, part of the painting, maybe even smudging the colors myself. But this time, being a bit in the passenger seat, because I wasn't actually interacting with the street parade, we were just in it, and you'll understand why in a moment, but I really noticed patterns. And here's the thing. When you're just observing, you remove your own ego from the equation. You stop thinking about what you're going to say, what you're going to do, how you're looking, and you start actually seeing. And that state of mind carried over into the second event, the reason why we actually went out in the whole chaos, which could not have been more different. From the chaos of a street parade to a very exclusive private event. The kind of place where most people in the room have stories you'll never hear on the news. And normally, I'd be eager to jump into these conversations, share my perspective, maybe even challenge a few opinions. But this time, I didn't. Let's say that I was just a guest this time, and I really wanted just to listen, watch, understand what's the behavior and how do these people interact with each other in such an environment. And I might have asked short, simple questions, watched body language, the way certain people looked at each other before answering, the way some avoided eye contact, for example. And I noticed who was leading the conversations and who was just there to be seen. And here's what hit me. It's so rare to give yourself permission to be in that mode, to be the passenger. Because our culture rewards the driver, the loud one, the active one, the one who's making moves. But in the passenger seat, you collect something even more valuable: information, perspective, and context. And the more you have of these, the better driver you become when it's your turn to take the wheel. Now, before we get into the actual lessons of today, I have to also make you understand a bit better why I had this chance. This environment in which I was in, both during the street parade and the event, were highly Swiss environments, let's say, or overall where the majority of the language spoken was Swiss German. And even though English was an option, it was not the default. And given that my knowledge and my confidence with the language is close to zero, it really put me in that mindset. And that's why I decided to actually take advantage of it, because otherwise I would have just really been there trying to fit in without actually understanding anything. So going into the real content of today, the first big lesson I took from that day is this. When you stop talking, the world starts speaking to you. At the street parade, it was in the form of unfiltered human behavior, the joy, awkwardness, the posturing, the little bursts of authenticity. At the exclusive event, it was the subtleties, the hierarchy in the room, the way some people deferred to others, and the quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself. The second lesson, and this one's important, is that observation without intention is just people watching. Fun? Sure. But when you bring intention into it, observation becomes learning. I didn't just watch people at the street parade and think, that's funny, or yeah, that's interesting. I started asking myself, why? Why is that guy dancing with his back to the crowd? Why did that group suddenly split up after they bumped into someone? And the same at the private event. Why did the person speak up here but stayed silent there? Why did the energy in the room shift when a certain name was mentioned? And the third thing I noticed was that you see patterns you'd never catch if you were part of the noise. When you're the one talking, you're thinking so much about yourself, your next sentence, and how people are going to react to you. And that's normal. But it means your focus is split. Half on the outside world, half on yourself. In the passenger seat, that second half disappears. You're free to see the whole road. Now, I'm not saying you should live in the passenger seat. If you're always just observing and never engaging, you miss the chance to contribute. But, and this is the key, switching seats from time to time is how you grow. Think of it like this. If you're a driver, you're focused on steering, braking, following the map. But in the passenger seat, you might notice a shortcut. You might see a scenic view you'd have missed. You might realize there's a better route entirely. And when you go back to driving, you bring all that with you. For me, that day was like back-to-back masterclasses. The street parade taught me about the surface layer, the raw, unfiltered way people present themselves in public when the energy is high, it's loud, it's messy, it's real. The exclusive event taught me about the undercurrent, the things that aren't said, the silent exchanges, the weight of reputation in a room. And those two environments couldn't be more different from each other, but they're both human behavior at its purest. And here's what ties it all together. You can learn either of those lessons if you're always in the middle of the action. Sometimes you have to step back. You have to give yourself permission to not be on, to not be the driver, to just be the passenger, and let the road show you something you'd never notice otherwise. So, here's my challenge to you. And yes, this is the part where I pull you into the conversation. Think of the next situation you're going into, whether it's a party, a meeting, even just hanging out with friends, and ask yourself, what if I took the passenger seat for an hour? What if I asked more questions than I answered? What if I noticed more than said? You might be surprised by what you pick up. Because the truth is, observation is a skill. And like any skill, you only get better once you practice. And the better you get at seeing, the better you get at acting when the time comes. So, next time you're in the driver's seat of your own life, remember the passenger seat exists for a reason. And sometimes it's where the best view is. Having said that, that was all for today. Thank you very much for listening. As always, if you ended up liking this episode, leaving a like and subscribing really help. And let me know in the comments what you believe. Are you the kind of person that's more in the passenger seat or is the one driving? As usual, stay consistent, stay resilient. This was the Shower Podcast, and see you tomorrow.